Auzubillahiminashaitanirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So today we are going to discuss chapter number 47, and this chapter number 47 has the sensory receptors and the neuronal processing circuits. As we know, our body has receptors. For example, this is my finger and it has certain receptor which is going to activate area of the brain and the spinal cord. And in the brain and the spinal cord, there are neuronal circuits which will process the information. So first of all, we will discuss how many types of receptors are there. For your convenience, there are 5 different types of receptors. One is the mechanoreceptor, second is the thermoreceptor, nociceptors, electromagnetic ones, and chemoreceptors. The mechanoreceptors, they are responsible or responsive to the mechanical changes, for example, compression, etc. Thermoreceptors are responsible to detect changes in the temperature. Nociceptors are responsible to detect any changes due to the physical and chemical stimuli that are causing any tissue damage and producing pain. And the electromagnetic receptors, they will detect the electromagnetic radiations like the rods and cones of the eye. They are going to convert those electromagnetic radiations into impulses. Then we have chemoreceptors, which are going to actually check the chemicals in our body or respond to chemicals like changing in the level of oxygen, carbon dioxide, the osmolality, etc. So this was all written in this paragraph. Now we come to the differential sensitivity of the receptors. What is differential sensitivity? It is how do these receptors respond and have different stimuli even though the same receptor is having all the different type of stimuli. For example, this is my finger and it is receiving pain stimulus. For example, I am compressing it, so it is receiving pain stimulus. Along with it, it is receiving a mechanical stimulus. Along with it, some other stimuli. But if there is a only pain fiber or only pain receptor, so we will only detect pain in that region. Why is that so? This is by differential sensitivities. Each receptor, for example, this is a particular receptor, so it is only responsible to or only responsive to only one type of stimulus. For example, if this is our eye, and in the eye there are rods and cone cells, they are only responsive to the electromagnetic radiations. They will not be responsive to heat, cold, pain, etc. Even if you touch your eye or cut your eye, the rods and cones will never detect any pain. This is because they are only responsive to the electromagnetic radiation, and this is due to their permeability of the certain ion channels, and that is why they have differential sensitivities, only responsive to a single type of the stimuli. If you look at here, they are giving example rods and cones of the eye. They are only responsive to light. The heat, cold, and pressure changes, they are not responsive to heat, cold, pressure changes. Now the osmoreceptors, they are only responsive, they are located in the supraoptic nuclei of the hypothalamus, and they are only responsive to the osmolality of the body fluids. And similarly, for example, touch stimuli or tactile stimuli, they are only the pain receptors. They will not be responsive to the tactile stimuli. Rather, they will only become responsive when there's severe damage to tissue. For example, I'm touching my finger, so there will be no stimulus of the pain that will be activated, no receptor of pain that will be activated. But if I cut my finger or pinch my finger with a needle, that pain receptor or nociceptor will be activated. It is because due to its differential sensitivity, only sensitive to a single type of response or single type of stimulus. Now we have modality of sensation. For example, I told you this is my finger and it is receiving different types of stimuli: touch, pain, pressure, temperature, etc. But a single nerve fiber is only going to carry a single impulse. For example, this is a nerve fiber and it is connected to the brain, and it only is connected to one region of the brain, and consider this region is a pain region. So if I prick my finger, that pain receptor will be activated, and it will convert that modality of sensation into an electrical impulse, and that impulse will go to the brain and it will activate the pain region of the brain. So This is a single line principle or labeled line principle or law of projection. Projection means the image is formed in the brain and image is passing through one pathway. So that is why it is also known as law of projection or law of labeled line principle. One thing about this principle is only the modality or the sensation that is converted into the impulse that will be sent to the brain. So there are different modalities of sensation which are received, but only the receptor which is responsive to that stimulus, or it is differentially responsive, or differentially, you can say, it has that differential sensitivity for the pain pathway, that receptor will be activated and it will only convert it into an impulse and it will activate only that region in the brain. Similarly, temperature, it only activates its temperature receptors, that are thermoreceptors, and they carry the sensations into the temperature regions of the brain. So this is how the labeled line principle or law of projection works in our body. Only the sensory impulses, the nerve fibers transmit only the impulses, and these impulses help us to distinguish between different type of the stimuli and maintain modalities of the sensation. They're giving example, if a touch fiber is stimulated by electrical excitation of a touch receptor, or in other way the person perceives touch because touch fiber leads to specific touch areas in the brain. So if this is a touch fiber, it is activating only the touch region, touch nerve fiber and touch centers of the brain, as a result of which we will perceive touch only. This is how the label line principle works. Now we have transduction of the sensory stimuli into nerve impulses. One thing that you need to know, that receptors, for example, the pain receptors, the different type of receptors that we studied, these receptors are known as transducers because they convert one form of the energy into another form of energy. For example, in the rods and cone cells of the eye, they are receiving electromagnetic radiation, which is electrical form of energy, but it is converted into action potential or impulses, which is a different form of energy. For example, temperature, the change in temperature is associated with heat and cold, or the Fahrenheit, which is made in Fahrenheit or degree Celsius. But when we convert into an electrical impulse, it becomes a current which runs into our nerve fibers. So the receptors are transducers, converting one form of the energy into another. Now they are saying all the sensory receptors have one feature in common, and that is whatever type of stimulus excites the receptor, its immediate effect is to change the membrane electrical potential. So if a stimulus is exciting it, and the change in the potential in the receptor is known as the receptor potential. For example, if this was a receptor that was located in our body and a sensation comes, so what will happen? For example, it had a stimulus, or it had a potential of minus 65. Due to the coming of this stimulus, what we will have, there will be a change in the electrical potential. So this change in the potential due to coming of stimulus is known as receptor potential. Now here we can have a look at the different types of receptors that are there. For example, mechanoreceptors, they can be free nerve endings, they can be Merkel's disc, they can be spray ending, Ruffini ending. They are all labeled over here. For example, this is free nerve ending, this is expanded tip receptor, this is tactile hair, then this is the Pacinian corpuscle, then we have the Meissner corpuscle, then we have cross end bulbs, muscle spindle, Golgi tendon, Ruffini endings. All these are different types, and mechanoreceptors are Golgi tendon, the muscle spindles, the free nerve endings, Ruffini endings. You need to know all these. And then we come to the thermoreceptors. They can be cold receptors, warm receptors, then nociceptors. They are free nerve endings. Free nerve endings are always going to be your pain or nociceptors. The electromagnetic receptors, we've always discussed, the rods and cones of eye. The chemoreceptors, they can be taste, smell, arterial oxygen, blood carbon dioxide. So taste are receptors in the taste buds. Smell are receptors that are located in our nose or olfactory epithelium. The arterial oxygen is in the aortic and carotid bodies that we studied in the CVS. Then osmolality, I told you that there was a supraoptic nucleus in the hypothalamus that is going to detect osmolality. Then blood carbon dioxide. They are the receptors that are located in medulla and aortic and carotid bodies. So osmolality, arterial oxygen and blood carbon dioxide both are detected by aortic and carotid bodies. And blood glucose, amino acid, fatty acids, they are detected by hypothalamus. So carbon dioxide, oxygen by aortic, carotid, glucose and amino acids by hypothalamus, and osmolality by supraoptic nuclei of thalamus. So how a receptor undergoes changes in its potential, we are going to discuss this. But first we need to know that there were 5 different kinds of receptors. And whenever there will be a mechanical change or mechanical deformation, mechanoreceptors will be activated. So they have written over here that one cause of the change in receptor potential can be mechanical deformation. Second, we have the thermoreceptors, and these thermoreceptors, they will cause change in permeability of the membrane. So second thing can be change in the permeability of the membrane can also lead to production of receptor potential. Then we have our nociceptors, that are pain receptors, and they are also related to mechanical deformation or physical and chemical changes. So this is not important for their reception. But then we have electromagnetic receptors. They are going to change the characteristics of the receptor membrane. So when they change the receptor membrane characteristics, the electromagnetic radiation can produce a receptor potential. Similarly, when we have chemoreceptors, the chemoreceptors will produce a change in the chemical stimuli, and they will open certain ion channels, and the opening of ion channels will also produce a receptor potential. So mechanical deformation, change in the membrane permeability, change in the membrane receptor characteristics, and change in the or opening of certain ion channels. These are all the 4 mechanisms that are going to produce a change in the receptor potential. Now, what is maximum receptor potential amplitude? It means when the receptor becomes 100% responsive to the sodium ions, then we can say that the receptor or the membrane becomes maximally recepted, or maximum receptor potential is produced. And that maximum receptor potential has a value which we can call 100 millivolt, but it only occurs when there is a high degree of stimuli. For example, when you are getting electric shock, that will be a high level of the stimulus will be there, the frequency will be very high. Second thing is that the high number of the sodium ions are produced, and whenever the receptor potential become very they reach their maximum potential, what will happen? If they are uncontrolled, they can lead to epilepsy. So that is very difficult, or you can say very dangerous. Now, relation of receptor potential to action potential. How that receptor potential that was changed in the potential of the receptor is going to produce an action potential. I told you, whenever a sensation will come, it will firstly activate the receptor, and when there will be changes in the receptor, a receptor potential is produced, and now the change in the receptor potential will produce an electric or action potential. So this is how they are interlinked. Now we are going to discuss how this receptor potential produces an action potential. So whenever the receptor potential it goes through the threshold level for action potential, what will happen? An action potential will be generated. For example, you know that you had a receptor over here, and in the neurons we always know that the potential is minus 65. Some external stimulus is so large that it raises the stimulus, or it raises the membrane potential to minus 45. Plus 20 millivolt has been realized, and due to this we call the minus 45 is the threshold, and this threshold can now activate an action potential. So this is how change in the receptor potential can produce an action potential. And more is the receptor potential, and more it rises towards the positive side or above the threshold, more will be the frequency of the action potential. For example, If we look at this diagram, we see that this was the resting membrane potential, and the receptor potential came and it raised the level to the threshold level, as a result of which an action potential is generated. And if the receptor potential is much more, like if the sensation is so much that for example, an electrical shock, it is so much that it causes a large number of the action potential frequency. So you can see, the greater the receptor potential, the greater is the action potential frequency. Now we are going to discuss this type of receptor, which is a Pacinian corpuscle, and it is a mechanoreceptor. So you can see there is a central nerve fiber and it is surrounded by a number of concentric layers. So when we come over here, they have written that there is a central nerve fiber which is surrounded by concentric capsular layers. Now this is the diagram that we are going to consult for this. You can see this is a central nerve fiber, the yellow one, dark yellow, and this above is those concentric cellular layers. You can see the tip, it is unmyelinated, but when it leaves the corpuscle, it becomes surrounded by Schwann cells and it becomes myelinated. And between the myelinated portion, there are nodes of Ranvier. So what happens is, whenever there is a deformation, for example, there's some stimulus coming over here. Due to that stimulus, what will happen? Certain ion channels will open and the negative internal potential will change into positive. So means ion channels opened and there was deformity, and ion channels opened due to it, and what happened? A receptor potential was generated. Due to this receptor potential, a local circuit is produced that goes from the tip to the first node of Ranvier. We can also see it is written over here that a local circuit is produced, and this local circuit is from the tip of the Pacinian corpuscle to the first node of Ranvier, and as a result of which we get an action potential generated. So stimulus comes, opens the ion channels. Opening of the ion channel induces a receptor potential. The receptor potential causes a local circuit to be produced and it activates first node of Ranvier. Within the activation of first node of Ranvier, an action potential gets generated and it goes into our central nervous system for processing. So you can see it is written over here, the tip is unmyelinated. Then due to a deformation, ion channels will be opened, and due to that a receptor potential will be produced. This receptor potential is going to have a local circuit to be produced, and this local circuit is then going to produce an action potential that will go into the central nervous system for further processing. Now, what is the relationship between the stimulus intensity and the receptor potential? I told you that or you can see, we can go to this graph, that first when the stimulus intensity is increasing, for example, this is a single prick. So the intensity is very less. But if I increase the strength, oh, it hurts. So whenever I increase the strength, the receptor is going to detect the strength and the amplitude is going to increase, but up till this point. And if I keep on giving the same amount of power, but the amplitude does not increase, why does this happen? This is because progressively less and less additional increase in the number of action potential is seen. Why is this less and less increase in seen? This is because our central nervous system allows the receptor to be sensitive to very weak impulses, as well as it stops them from reaching a maximum level until the impulse is very extreme. For example, if I'm giving a large amount of power, but this power is not forcing anything, or it is not producing you can say a hole in it, that is why the strength is not extreme, even though the pressure is being applied for a long amount of time, but there is no deformation that is being caused. So this type of sensation that is decreasing over the time allows your receptor to be responsive to very weak as well as very intense stimuli. So that is the relationship between intensity and receptor potential. That firstly, With the increase in the strength, the amplitude increases, but to a certain level. After that, it starts to decrease, so that our receptor can become optimally activated to very weak as well as very strong type of stimulus. Now we have adaptation of receptor. For example, you have any constant stimulus that is constantly being applied to that particular receptor. So that receptor is going to adapt to that stimulus. So this is our adaptation graph. You can see that Pacinian corpuscle adapts very rapidly, whereas hair receptor, they do not adapt rapidly. Same goes for muscle spindle and joint capsule. Their adaptation, it takes a large amount of time. So they have written over here, Pacinial corpuscles, they adapt very rapidly, whereas hair receptors adapt within a second or so, and joint capsule and motor spindle or muscle spindle receptors adapt very slowly. Now they have written over here that the mechanoreceptor, they can adapt very easily, but the hair receptors, they take some time. And now they are saying that the mechanoreceptors that adapt very rapidly, the longest time that they have taken is by the aortic and carotid bodies, and they took 2 days to be adapted. But the non-chemoreceptors, like the non-mechanoreceptors like the chemoreceptors and the pain receptors, they do not adapt completely. And why do they do not adapt completely? There is a reason behind this, because if, for example, your hand, iron was placed on your hand. Iron is very hot, and you have you have a very, you can say, the stimulus keeps on going, and the iron is placed on your hand and it produces pain sensations. But your receptors of the pain, they do not get adapted to it. You'll feel the pain even if until and unless your pain receptors are bound out. The reason why you feel the pain is you want to remove your hand, you want to protect your tissues from any type of injury. That is why our pain receptors, our chemical receptors, they do not get adapted, but the mechanoreceptors, they can get adapted. That is why weightlifting is very easy, but a person cannot get adapted to fire, and they cannot like play with the fire, etc. Now we are going to discuss mechanisms by which receptors adapt. For example, the rods and cones, they adapt by changing concentrations of their life sensitive chemical channels. Whenever the rods and cones, that are the electromagnetic receptors, whenever they are going to work, they will cause changes in the membrane characteristics. And that is why changing in the concentration of light sensitive chemicals, they become adapted to it. For example, a large intensity of the you can say light is coming to your eye, but after some time you do not feel that large intensity. Why? Because the light sensitive chemicals that were produced first in a large amount, now they are being produced in a small amount. In the case of mechanoreceptors, the receptor that is the Pacinian corpuscle. Pacinian corpuscle is viscoelastic structures. So what does viscoelastic structure means? For example, it has a viscous component and it produces, the corpuscle directly initiates a signal in the central nerve fiber. This was a central nerve fiber and it has a viscoelastic structure. So the viscous component allows the central nerve fiber to be activated. But after some time, the change in the, you can say, the ion channels that was taking place, it will readjust itself. Even though the mechanical receptor is over there, this readjustment will make the Pacinian corpuscle or the mechanoreceptors adapted to it. It means that you will no longer feel the weight that you are carrying, because the ion channels that were in it, they have redistributed to their normal level, even though external stimulus is still there. As a result of it, receptor potential appears at the onset of compression but disappears within a small fraction of second afterwards. So you can, if I am pressurizing this finger of mine, what happens after some time? I will not feel any pressure. Why is that so? Because the change in the chemical signals that were taking place, now they have gone to their original concentration. So you can firstly feel any change, but after that, due to the constant stimulus, the change is not felt because the receptor has become adapted. And what will happen as soon as I will remove it? Now it will feel that it has been removed. So, and second pathway, one was the viscoelastic structure, the central nervous fiber, and the redistribution principle. First, you can say the redistribution principle. And the second, much slower mechanism of adaptation is accommodation. And it is also in the Pacinian corpuscles. So, what is accommodation? For example, there were a lot of sodium channels over here, but due to the progressive and the continuous stimulus, now these sodium channels are not responsive to the stimulus, as a result of which we can say that there has been adaptation taking place. So, accommodation is actually progressive inactivation of the sodium channels in the nerve membrane, which means sodium current flow through the channel causes them to close gradually, an effect that seems to occur for all membrane sodium channels. This accommodation principle closes or inactivates the sodium channels, so the adaptation takes place in the Pacinian corpuscles. One redistribution is based upon the structure or the redistribution principle. The second is based upon electrical type of accommodation or due to the change in the activation or deactivation of sodium channels. Now we have slowly adapting receptors. When we came to this diagram or graph, we know that joint capsule receptors, muscle spindle receptors, they are slowly adapting. Why they are slowly adapting? Because they keep our brain aware of the status of body and its relation to the surroundings. For example, there are also very other ones which keep our brain responsive to the surroundings. That is the vestibular apparatus that is located in our ear, which controls our you can say posture, and it does not allow us to fall. Second is the pain receptor, it protects us from pain. The baroreceptor in the arterial tree, and the chemoreceptors of carotid and aortic bodies. The main reason why these are slowly adapting, because they will keep us responsive to our surroundings, responsive to any external damaging stimuli, responsive to any changes in the oxygen and carbon dioxide level. Because if they become adapted to it, what will happen? Our body will suffer. Now we have rapidly adapting receptors. One was slowly adapting one, muscle spindle, vestibular apparatus, baroreceptors, chemoreceptors of aortic carotid bodies, the pain receptors. But the rapidly acting one, like the Pacinian corpuscles, I told you that rapidly adapting ones are the ones that become exactly rapidly adapted. For example, the mechanoreceptor, I push it, I push it, I push it. After some time, due to the continuous stimulus, I cannot feel this pressure. Even now, I'm not feeling this pressure. But as soon as I will remove it, I can feel that something has been removed. So, these receptors, the mechanoreceptor, Pacinian receptors, react strongly while a change is actually taking place. They are responsive to change. That is why they are known as rate receptors, movement receptors, or phasic receptors. Movement, they detect change in the movement. Rate, they detect the rate of the stimuli. And phasic, they detect any changes in the phase of our body. They have written the same example over here, that in the case of Pacinian corpuscles, sudden pressure in the tissue excites this receptor for a few milliseconds, but when its excitation is over, even though the pressure continues, but as soon as you remove the you can say the pressure, a signal again is transmitted when the pressure is released, and due to that we can detect any changes. So it is a movement receptor, phasic receptor, or a rate receptor. Now these receptors have predictive functions of the body. For example, and the semicircular canals of the vestibular apparatus, that is in our ear. We have our ear which has external ear, middle ear, and in the internal ear we have vestibular and cochlear apparatus. These two apparatus and the semicircular canals detect the rate at which head begins to turn. For example, when we are turning, when we are getting up from a certain area, so these rate receptors, they start to work, and they can adjust the motion of the legs ahead of time to keep us from losing our balance. For example, this with cochlear, the semicircular canal, and the vestibular apparatus was not working. What will happen? That we cannot predict, and our body cannot produce any forward movement. What will happen when we will try to stand up? We'll actually fall. When a person is done. Even when we are running, For example, when a person is running, information from joint receptors allows the nervous system to predict when the next feet will be moving forward. As a result, adaptations or changes can be made in our posture. Therefore, appropriate motor signal can be transmitted to muscles of the legs to take any necessary changes and corrections in position. And loss of this predictive function of the rate receptors, what will happen due to loss of this function? The person will be unable to run. Also, we cannot stand up, will fall down. All these things, they are involved in the predictive function of rate receptors.